Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Redeemer, and today I'll be teaching you how to beat the Exploiter Orb. The Exploiter Orb is one of the boss fights located in the Venus open world. In order to begin this boss fight, the player needs Diluted Thermia. Diluted Thermia is a reward from the Thermia Fractures event. If you want a guide on how to complete this very easily, I have one on my channel and it should be linked above. Before attempting this mission, it is important to make sure that you have the right setup so that you can complete the mission with as little difficulty as possible. For this boss fight, it is recommended to bring a frame that has a damage reduction ability or a very high AHP. Frames such as Inaros, Mesa, Neja, Gara are very good for this mission. Your weapon of choice for this mission is also very important. It is important to bring a strong secondary or melee weapon, since you won't have much opportunity to use your primary. Melee weapons such as the Redeemer or a Zaw with Exodia Contagion are very good for this. A Catch Moon Kit gun is also a very good secondary to bring, as well as a Euphona Prime or any heavy hidden secondary weapon. It is a very good idea to build your weapon for corrosive damage, because the Exploiter Orb is very weak to corrosive damage. Radiation is a good secondary element to have in one of your other weapons, because the coolant arachnoids are very weak to radiation damage, and killing them as fast as possible will help you complete the mission much more effectively. Magus Elevate and Arcane Velocity are also good additions for this mission. Magus Elevate will allow you to heal very easily, which is very necessary for this boss fight since she does a lot of damage. Arcane Velocity will help you to shoot faster, which will increase your overall DPS completing the mission much faster. To begin the Exploiter Orb boss fight, you can head directly to deck 12, or you can accept the Exploiter Orb heist by interacting with the briefing table in the back room. This will give you 1000 stand-in toward Solaris United whenever you kill the Orb Mother. Deck 12 is located in a cave to the far right of Fortuna. It should be marked in your screen right now. If you have difficulties finding the cave, you can always use a lock pin to permanently mark the location on your map. When you enter Deck 12, you'll need to locate the Thermia condenser and deposit your diluted Thermia into it. This will begin phase 1 of the boss fight. After you do this, the Exploiter Orb will descend into Deck 12 from a giant hole in the sky where the elevator normally is. When she enters Deck 12, she'll be shooting at you perched on 2 rocks. You need to shoot the rocks out from under her to make her fall towards the ground. The Exploiter Orb has 4 vents located across her body. In this phase of the fight, you'll need to destroy all 4 of these vents. After she falls to the ground, you'll be able to destroy one of her vents, which will cause her to freeze the remaining 3. In order to unfreeze her vents so that you can attack them again, you'll need to find a Thermia canister from one of the 4 Thermia condensers located at different points of the room. The Thermia condensers will produce a new canister of Thermia every 30 seconds. You need to pick up one of these canisters and toss them near the vents of the Exploiter Orb and shoot it while in mid-air. This will cause the canister to explode and partially melt some of the ice in the vents. If you angle it properly, it is possible to use one canister of Thermia to melt multiple vents. You need to repeat this process until you've completely melted one of her vents, at which point you can shoot it and destroy it. When she has one vent remaining, she will climb towards the top of deck 12 and send coolant arachnoids after you. If you destroy enough of these arachnoids, she will come down, at which point you can continue attacking her vents. Or you can use your operator mode to get to where she is and destroy her vents from up there. After you've destroyed all 4 of her vents, she will begin leaving deck 12 and start heading towards Fortuna. At this point, you'll need to leave deck 12 and head towards the entrance of the cave, where you'll confront her for phase 2. Before you leave the cave, it is recommended to grab a thermia canister because it will be very useful for the next phase. If you use your operator mode to grab one canister and your Warframe to grab another, you can have 2 canisters for the next fight. When you exit the cave, the Orb Mother will be nearby, and there will be a gauge on the side of your screen. This gauge is a heat gauge, and you need to fill it up completely in order to continue the fight. The gauge will passively begin filling, and in order to speed it up, you can throw the thermia canisters at her. Shooting the canisters mid-air is not a requirement for this phase of the fight, but if you do so, it will cause the gauge to fill twice as fast. The Orb Mother would attempt to lower her gauge by having coolant Arachnoid splash coolant on her if they get close enough, by picking up coolant herself, or by using attacks that cause thermia fractures in the ground. In order to prevent this, it is recommended to keep all coolant canisters away from her, and to destroy the coolant arachnoids before they are within 10 meters of her. Every time that a coolant arachnoid splashes her with coolant, her heat gauge will decrease by 5%. If you destroy the coolant arachnoids before they are able to do this, they will drop a canister of coolant, which can be used to instantly seal the thermia fractures created by the Orb Mother. This will create a thermia canister which you can throw at the Orb Mother to increase the speed of her heat gauge. During the second phase of the attack, having an Archwing and a weapon with a long range is very good since you can snipe the coolant arachnoids before they get close enough to the Orb Mother. Using Mace is also good for this, since her Peacemaker can auto-target the enemies, making it much easier to kill them. Gara is also quite useful, since if you have enough range, you can just use your fourth ability to completely prevent the coolant arachnoids from getting in range of the Orb Mother. Once the heat gauge completely fills, you'll be able to jump into the Orb Mother, which will initiate a cutscene in which you rip off one of her parts. After you rip off this part, there will be an exposed spot on the Orb Mother which you can shoot to reduce her health by 1/3. You need to repeat this process 2 more times until you rip off her head, at which point you can kill her and conclude the fight. Filling the heat gauge will take more and more thermia canisters every time, so be aware of that. After you've killed her, she'll drop rare Fortuna resources, a hildryn blueprint part, and a lazulite toroid which can be used to rank up your voxelar stand-in. These drops are doubled by a resource booster, or if you have the Smita charm buff active. Be careful to collect these resources very quickly, because shortly after she dies, she will self-destruct. You can avoid this explosion by going into your operator void mode if you have a Warframe with an invincibility phase, or by flying more than 300 meters away from the explosion. And that was how to defeat the Exploiter Orb. If you enjoyed this video, please make sure to leave a like and share it with someone who you think would find it useful.
If you will not be a subscriber, you shall die!